Anushri?
केलं मॅम.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. So last time we had spoken about the geographical location of Europe and how Mediterranean Sea plays an important role in the idea of unit. Then we had gone on to the Encyclopedia Britannica explanation of what is the idea of Renaissance. We had also spoken about the Italian word which means rebirth. So rebirth of what? Rebirth of what is called as the classical cultural heritage of Europe. And when one says classical, it means one is indicating at the Greco-Roman heritage, which all the European people consider as their own classical heritage. So Renaissance means a chain of events wherein there was, because of various reasons, between the 14th and the 17th century, there was this revival, rebirth, rejuvenation of what the Europeans in that period considered as the classical values, classical arts, classical theater, so on and so forth. So classical learning. And we had also seen these salient features of the ideas that were predominant during the Renaissance period. We had also seen this picture because it's a kind of a representative picture of what the life during the feudal times was like for a typical Western European village. Largely self-sufficient, and resources were gathered in the hands of the lord of the manor, that is the feudal lord, and also church being one of the important owners, one of the largest owners of land in medieval Europe. So this Renaissance is a period which comes chronologically after this decline of the feudal system, and as people start going out of their villages for various reasons. They are either sailing or they are going out for crusades, so on and so forth. For various reasons, people are going out of their limited world, which was geographically also constraining, and it was ideologically also quite putting a lot of limitations on their minds. So as the horizons widen for the people living in Europe, one sees people start realizing that all of us living here in Europe have something called as a common cultural heritage, which can go back to the Greco-Roman tradition. And they feel that it is important to revive this classical learning. So revival of classical learning and wisdom is something which denotes what came to be later on called as the Renaissance. Okay. As compared to the last time's PPT, you will see that this time I've added point number 4 in this slide, which is the process is greatly helped by the Arab intellectuals. This is something that, okay, Laksh, what have you written in the chat? Okay, no problem. You don't have to excuse yourself. No problem.
Thank you, ma'am.
And that's standard for everybody. If you leave, it's okay. No worries. Leave for a little while also, it's okay. So the role of the Arab intellectuals, Arab people, Arab interactions with the European people is something that we will be dealing in greater detail later in this lecture. But I thought that right at the beginning also it's important to note it when we are speaking about the general characteristic features of what is called as the Renaissance. Okay. Yeah. Can you see the picture, Socrates?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Also notice that there are certain dates that I have highlighted in red color. And these are tied between an event that happens and the depiction that happens. That is, Socrates, he dies here in 399 BC, and the picture, the death of Socrates, is painted in what year?
470 BC.
Yeah, 1787. So is 1800 and minus 399, that is those 399 years. Almost after 2000 years,
2000.
this person, Jacques Louis David, he feels like painting Socrates. This is something that will explain why and how the process of Renaissance came about. That is, people living in the 17th century, 18th century, 15th century, 14th century, drawing inspiration from somebody who lived in 4th century BC, 5th century BC, somebody who's died 2000 years ago, still gives inspiration, still prompts people to speak up, still prompts people to have a dialogue, argument. That kind of an intellectual dialogue, intellectual give and take is something that is important when we are speaking about the Renaissance period. Okay, so something has happened 2000 or 1500 years ago, and these people are trying to talk back to it. These people are trying to establish a dialogue with it 1500 years afterwards. Is something which is very, very significant when it comes to understanding the Renaissance. Who's Socrates, who's what, these things you can Google later on. You know that Socrates, of course, was a famous philosopher, and he, yeah. Why is he dying here? Why is he accepting that poison, hemlock?
Wants to die, ma'am.
Why?
He
Not
was
a
asked
suicide
to,
person, right?
yeah, he was asked to say that all that he was saying or all that he believed and all the knowledge that he created was false, or commit suicide by drinking the poison. So he chose to get the poison.
Right.
असं मला
So
आठवतं.
Socrates is not. बरोबर आहे.
हो.
Socrates is not somebody who's accepting death as an old man, decrepit man, or somebody who's bored with life and hence he's committing suicide. He's somebody who has died for his values, died for his principles that he sincerely believes in. Now this is important for us because you can see that this is a subject which becomes a topic of a big painting, a famous one, which it became famous later on, but he becomes a hero in the 18th century also. Even today, for us also, Socrates is a hero. So the values that he lived and died for are important for people who lived 2000 years after Socrates, 2500 years after Socrates, so on and so forth. So the value is something that I want to highlight. We find that Socrates is relevant today as well. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah. Again, here at the center you will find these two guys. Who are these two guys? One is Aristotle, Plato and Aristotle. And then there are other, of course, here one can even have a kind of a glossary of who is who in this picture. I will, of course, share this slide. You can have closer. Raphael, living in the 16th century, painting in the 16th century, feels that when he's painting the Vatican, that is a church, a very, very, very big church. Vatican is a city within which Raphael painted in a specific church. But living feels that he should and he can paint somebody like Plato and Aristotle, who lived in the 4th and the 4th century BC. See here, he is living in the 16th century, painting something which has happened in the 4th century BCE. That is again this 1500 and minus 400 years. So 1900 years old topic. And these guys, mind you, these people are they live 4th century BCE, before Common Era, that is before Christ also. So these are not even Christian people. Still, this becomes a topic of a painting in the big church in the Vatican City, which is the center of Catholic Christianity. These people are not even Christians, but still they come as important figures on the walls of a church. You can imagine kind of influence these people must have had, what kind of inspiration these people must have provided to the painting in the 16th century. This one is this picture is the same. It's only a what do you call, detail from the previous picture. It's a detail. And these guys lived in the 4th century BCE. Time gap. That's something that I want you to pay attention to. Okay. Here is another example of Cicero, somebody who lived in the what century BC? 1st century BC. 1st century BC. And the book gets printed as soon as Gutenberg invents the new technology of printing with oil-based ink and so on and so forth. It's one of the earliest books to be printed in the 15th century. So Cicero has written in 1st century BC, but he gets printed in the 15th century.
Yes, ma'am.
Plutarch in the 2nd century gets printed in the 15th century. 1621 print of somebody who lived in the 2nd century AD. Okay. All these were just examples, very colorful and very pleasing to the eye. But these are examples of how and why people felt that living in the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, they could still find relevance in the ideas that had happened in the 4th century BC, 3rd century BC, whatever. So ideas which were a part of the Greco-Roman tradition of thinking. Okay. So the point about the slides so far was that Renaissance is all about revival of classical Greco-Roman thoughts, topics, subjects, literature, philosophy, so on and so forth. And one can see this revival through various paintings, through various statues. Earlier we saw the statue of Lao Kyun. Again, in the next slides also we will be seeing other sculptures, but through various this connection between the ancient and the medieval was manifested through various media. That is medium of art, medium of architecture, medium of literature, so on and so forth. Polity also. Okay. Here we'll stop the English narration, and maybe are there any questions so far?
No, ma'am.